September 11, 2001 was a historic and tragic event that many of us remember to this day.
Into the World Trade Center. We're on the line with 1010 Wins account executive Joan Fleischer, a witness to this terrible unfolding scene.
9/11 was a terrorist attack that claimed almost nearly 3,000 lives and impacted many people. Two planes had crashed into the Twin Towers in Lower Manhattan, New York, making this terrorist attack to be one of the worst terrorist attacks that has happened in America so far.
The Al-Qaeda is an organization that terrorists lead. This was the group that caused the 9/11 terrorist attack. The Taliban was providing a safe place for Al-Qaeda where they could safely recruit, train, and deploy terrorists to other countries.
On September 20th, U.S. President George W. Bush declared defeating terrorism was now the world's fight.
Our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
An invasion of Afghanistan was made barely one day after the 9/11 attack, October 7th, 2001.
At the time, the Al-Qaeda was embedded with the Haqqani Taliban. They brought the U.S. attention to the Taliban terrorist groups, so they sent out British and Afghan United Front forces to destroy the Al-Qaeda and remove the Taliban regiment that had grouped the terrorist group in Afghanistan.
9/11 was so important because it brought people to learn more about the Taliban and their ways.
It is the responsibility of the people to defend their right to education by organizing and protecting the violation of their rights to get an education, locally, nationally, and globally.
The Taliban is a Sunni Islamic movement that was founded in the early 1900s. They had ruled Afghanistan from 1996 until October 2001. They wanted to enforce a strict interpretation of the Quranic instruction and law. The Quran is the scripture of the Islamic belief, meaning they had shown no mercy to the treatment of women, political opponents of any type, and religious minorities.
The Taliban were the main reasons for the Soviet invasion in 1979 and the Soviet-Afghan War. The Soviet-Afghan War caused the Soviets to withdraw a decade later, causing them to settle for peace. The peace that they created wasn't technically peace for our people. This is what caused the Taliban to have power over Afghanistan as the victors of the Civil War in 1996.
Before the Taliban took control, women in Afghanistan were educated and employed. But when they were ruling, they imposed strict restrictions like banishing women from the workforce, closing schools for girls and women couldn't leave the house, and other harsh rules strictly towards women. They were so-called erasing them completely from public arenas. If a woman were to refuse or disobey these restrictions, they would be punished in such ways as being brutally beaten and killed for violating the Taliban. This event had been pushed aside by other things occurring in the world. Governments and international organizations' response to the event was poor. Diplomats say to engage with the Taliban, but nothing convinced the Taliban to end the assault on women's rights.
In Afghanistan have slowly deteriorated under the Taliban rule. These restrictions on the rights of women and girls will affect many generations to come. Women have been arrested for breaking the policies, which are the rules in Afghanistan. Afghanistan has been in very poor conditions. The economy has shrunk. A representative in Afghanistan described the Taliban takeover as 3 years' worth of countless decrees, directives, and statements targeting women and girls.
Although all of the orders were harsh, some Afghan women continued to have courage. Despite the challenges Afghanistan is working with, Afghan women and girls have made steady progress and steady advances towards their human rights. Afghanistan women are committing a crime by singing to protest.
مهر خاموشی دهانم را مهیا میکنی تا امر رسانی آب و نانم را مرا با جرم زن بودن اسیر خانه‌ام کردی.
The flower will unfurl, revealing a spring of freedom, they chant. I sing the anthem of freedom, again, freedom. The restrictions of hearing a woman's voice, which includes singing, is an extreme interpretation of a belief held by Islamic jurists that a woman's voice is bewitching.
Malala Yousafzai was a young girl who loved school dearly and getting her education. She never knew that one day she would be forced to stop going to school because of a group of men who showed hatred towards women. At the time, Malala's father was a teacher at a girls' school that Malala attended herself. Malala had a great bond with all of her classmates. They all would have a good time and love women. However, Malala's dad, being a teacher, influenced her connection with the bond with the school and getting an education. Schools were taken away and burnt down because the Taliban became empowered and enforced many cruel rules, especially targeting Afghan women. Having the right for women to go to school was one of the main rules that the Taliban enforced on women. The Taliban had forced them to not attend school anymore.
Malala's love for school was always there for her. Ever since the Taliban had enforced their cruel rules, Malala felt a certain way and felt that there was a need for change. Malala's passion for school made her go above and beyond. She wanted to do anything to attend school, even if her life was on the line.
Have no food to eat, and these children are starving for education.
She wanted this human right to be passed because all girls and young women deserve an education.
Since we know Malala would go above and beyond and risk her own life for school, she decided that she would go to school in Pakistan, where they allow young women and girls to go to school and get an education.
However, Malala didn't get the results she wanted. When coming back from school in Pakistan, where the Taliban shot her in the head because they caught Malala breaking one of the rules that the Taliban has enforced on women.
Malala being shot in the head allowed many people from different countries to hear about the Taliban's cruel ways. This cruel moment for Malala was worldwide. This changed her life forever, although Malala faced a serious brain-damaging injury.
Malala got more into activism, which earned her the Nobel Peace Prize in 2014. She spoke publicly on behalf of the girls that wouldn't speak. She was like the face of Afghanistan women and girls.
It was not about women's rights, it was not about equality, but it was just these messages that I was seeing that feminism is controversial and that
She didn't want to live a quiet life, but she wanted to make the most of her life. Also, Malala kept a diary full of events that spoke about the Taliban, which caused an American documentary film to be made about her, which made Malala internationally famous. She wanted to continue fighting for girls to go to school. She started a charity dedicated to giving every girl an opportunity to achieve the future she chose.
Although Malala faced many hardships during her early life, she still found a way to create a change in her home country. Since we know the Taliban's harsh ways, we know that Malala couldn't just change all their laws because she's just one person and a woman. So her being a woman and living in Afghanistan, she knows that changing all their ways can be very difficult and challenging to do. But since Malala is a very brave young woman, she tried to overcome this challenge and help break down one of the biggest laws that the Taliban has against women, which is the right to get an education. Malala hasn't fully overcome this challenge, but she has helped contribute to this challenge and make a change for young girls and women. Ever since Malala started making her effect on the Taliban's harsh rules, she has helped protest about young girls wanting to be able to go to school. She has inspired others from not just her country, but many more. After Malala Yousafzai's protests and demands for change, she has been heard that she has helped young women and young girls attend school for as many years as they wanted, which changed the way education was ran in Afghanistan.
Malala's change has been very influential. Her fight to action had others taking action too by protesting, donating, speaking out, and more. Although Malala hasn't fully made it into the Taliban, she still has done plenty for a girl her age. Malala has achieved this effect by not giving up even after others tried to belittle her. She stood strong and persevered. Although Malala has inspired many young girls, there are still harsh rules that the Taliban still has in place.
Although this event may seem a little recent, but Malala's big change helped influence many women and young girls that it is important to go to school while you can, because some people can't go to school and get educated because of the rules in their country. But Malala's change has helped Afghan women and young girls to be able to go to school for as many years as they want. Malala's change is so important because she was also a young girl who loved school dearly. And then school was taken away from her, but she took action at such a young age, even though her own life could be on the line.